This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Ladies and gentlemen, today on the podcast, we have Cash Rose. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is really fun. So one of the things that I always do with people on here is have them tell me how they know me. How do we meet? Do you remember?
Yeah. We met through Michael McHenry, who we were just talking about, one of the coolest guys that I know. I think just like at random events and stuff, we'll see each other here and there, and then ran into you at Sunday's Best a couple weeks ago, and you're like, you should be on my podcast. So, and now we're here. We made it happen.
Yeah.
He's great at connecting people.
No, he's the best. I always joke with people because they're like, hey, you're going to go to Michael McHenry's party? And I'm like, yeah, we'll see, I don't know. And they're like, well, are they like super fun? I'm like, honestly, Michael introduces me to every single person that's there. So for me, it's actually like, it's fun, but it's also like a networking event.
100%.
Like every single time, which is amazing, right? It's like and the way he does it too, it's like I meet people and there's like no expectation of anything, right? It's just like, hey, you two guys are cool. You're in this world. He's in this world. Let's, if you guys ever can collaborate,
Mm-hmm.
it's just nice, right? I mean, you know who the hat guy is? I'm trying to remember his name. The guy that makes all those like really custom hats for all the NBA players.
John Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and I one time talked for like 45 minutes, dude. Like we were on his Instagram just showing me stuff. I was like, oh, this stuff is freaking
That's so cool.
Because, and you're in that same vein, right? I mean, you do a lot of design for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how'd you get into that?
I've always loved design, and I've always loved fashion, sports, like everything kind of all comes together. I've always just liked being different and having my own custom stuff. Even since I was little, I've loved also repping my own brand or personal brand. So ever since even just being little, I've always whether it started with stencils and literally like painting it on a shirt or spray painting to slowly buying equipment to make my own clothes and whatnot. I've always just had a passion for design. And like I said, I've always liked standing out and being different, which a lot of people, I feel like it's hard for a lot of people to do. And that's just something that I've really found to be more my superpower.
Yeah.
So ever since, way back in the day. And then even in high school, took a bunch of different design classes, graphic design. I've always loved art and drawing. Took screen printing classes in high school, learning how to print on clothes and all that stuff. And then kind of slowly just started my own different brands and companies and kind of went from there.
So that's amazing. I didn't realize that. You went to Provo High School we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
So were those classes actually did you have a screen printing class in-house or did you guys have to go off campus?
In-house, yeah. It was super cool. The football coach there, I played basketball and baseball, but the football coach there who I was close with, he was the one that ran the class and had everything in-house. So it really was awesome. I would come up with an idea and then even stay after school and make 20 extra shirts and sell them to homies literally out of the trunk, kind of like all the stories you hear.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, that was actually so cool. And thinking about school, those were some of the classes, one that I loved the most, but also that I got the most from, especially because I'm still using them now. Yeah. So,
So did you, cool. When did you make the leap into this is what I'm going to do?
I guess, so I actually, in high school, I started a brand called The Good Life clothing. And it was just kind of more just for my friends and teammates, because I would make cool stuff. People wanted to buy it. And I was like, what's something that everyone can agree on or wants to live or live by motto wise? And I remember coming up with The Good Life, and then not too long, Kanye's song came out, The Good Life. So it was even more fitting. And I love hip hop and at least Kanye's old stuff. Great artist, kind of crazy now, but kind of just starting with that and just realizing that I had an eye for trends or whatever the case. And so just starting that, I started kind of doing pre-orders and making more and more every time. And then I went on a mission, and during my LDS mission, I had an idea book, and it was full of business ideas and stuff, but also I had one separate that was just of the Good Life brand. And I was like, I want to make this into a lifestyle brand. And I feel like a lot of people, most entrepreneurs, they usually start with a clothing brand. Every entrepreneur that I know has at least maybe started in that, because that is kind of a cool way to learn business And yeah, you learn A to Z about literally like from start to finish, website, how to promote it, the manufacturing side and everything. And so on my mission, just meeting cool people and getting advice from people, I was like, when I get home, I'm going to go back to school, but I'm going to go all in on this. And as soon as I I had a goal number in my mind, and I was like, as soon as I make this amount of sales in a month, I'm just going to drop out. So that was kind of my goal. I went to UVU and I went for 2 years, and then I finally hit that number and off to the races from there.
Oh, nice. And so did you drop out then?
Yeah.
Cool.
Finished out that semester and then went full time. So it was pretty cool.
Dude, that is, I don't know if you've listened to many of the podcasts on here, but like, I'm kind of an anti-college guy, even though I have a degree.
Yeah.
Because I love that, right? It's like, find what you want to do, get the resources you need, and go do it.
Yep.
You know, why take biology?
Exactly. And I'm the same way. And I think it was actually nice because the 2 years was generals. And so I wasn't even getting into the stuff that I really cared about. And I went into business marketing and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Barely even got into those classes because you have to finish those generals out. And so that's what was nice. Having that motivation of like, nah, like I know I'm going to get my degree and do this anyway. So why wait another couple years? Yeah. And so I think that's what was cool, is having that like kind of chip on my shoulder in a way where I'm like, I don't really want to. And it was also still at a weird time where it's like, you don't not go to college. Like if you don't, it's not the best look type thing. That's why it was nice that I had something going for me though, where I was just like, all right, as soon as I hit this number, I'm going to go full time. Yeah. And I'm glad that I did that. Yeah. Crazy how it all works out.
Do you still have that brand?
So that brand had to transitioned into like a promotional company where it was, so this will make sense. So it was a brand at UVU. I trademarked the logo, but not the name. And it was with my entrepreneurship teacher. He helped me kind of do it all. I didn't really understand at the time that there was both. I thought when I submitted my logo, which is a crest logo, I'll have to show you, but I had all the rights to that. Long story short, after going like 4, almost 5 years, I started getting a bunch of like cease and desist and all of this legal documentation from a company that was in Nordstrom they were called Enjoy Your Good Life. And then long story short, we actually had to go back and forth with a lot of stuff, and I had to end up rebranding to avoid just a lot of penalties. I had to pay them on all of the times that I didn't use my logo. So anytime there was a design that had like Good Life in it or whatever. So I ended up rebranding that, and that's where Rare Roses, which is the brand that I run with my brother now, that's kind of where the rebirth of that, which ended up being a way better name. So that kind of switched in, and I also, to back up a little bit, I bought all of the machines and stuff to make our own stuff in-house. And so all of a sudden when I got all that stuff, I was like, what do I do? I could only talk to their lawyers. I couldn't talk to the actual like owner or anything, because I was right out of college. And so I honestly just wanted to talk to him. I kind of just like figure out how we could make it work. So for those couple months since I had all those machines, I started just printing for friends. And so that's kind of where that came from, is I had all this stuff and I was like, you know what, in this downtime, I love designing. I have all this equipment and I obviously want to still make money and grow my business. So it kind of transitioned to kind of more of like the printing and manufacturing side of clothing. And then once we kind of figured everything out with the Good Life clothing, that's when we transitioned it to Rare Roses, and that's kind of how it all unraveled from there.
Nice. So you had to stop using that brand then, a Good Life then?
So it's called the Good Life Promo or Promotions. Mm-hmm. Still can use it on like a marketing side and like printing for companies, but that's actually transitioning into a whole kind of a rebrand as well, just so we can start selling different items and whatnot from it and kind of avoid all of that mess in the first place.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
So how much, in your business, to kind of talk a little bit of numbers, how much does all that equipment cost?
It kind of just it depends, and there's so many different levels. but at the beginning, couple $1,000s, and then like, but when you obviously want to get like automated screen presses or just better quality, I mean, it can go up to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of cool, is learning and there's so many different processes. There's screen printing, there's embroidery, heat transfers, and which is with like vinyls, and there's so many different, like even so many different styles of vinyls, which is cool now because there's like color changing and heat sensitive reflectors. And so I've done all of that. And so it's been kind of cool to see what kind of works or what's best in investing more into that side of things, or stuff that's maybe not worth doing in-house. I've started outsourcing a lot of stuff overseas, which is nice because there's a lot of things that are easier to make over there, cheaper, or not necessarily worth running myself or having somebody run it. So yeah, I guess that was kind of a very broad answer, but yeah, I mean, you can start really with nothing. That's what's cool too, is that's the advice that I'll give to kids and whatnot that are starting their own brands. You can get started up for really any under $1,000 if you're really smart, a couple $100, and then it's nice too because you can just start. You can pay off your machine literally in a week by just printing for somebody else or whatever the case. So yeah.
So as heat transfers are pretty popular, right?
Yeah, they're super easy just because they're easy for one-of-ones. Like for a screen to be made, for even just like a simple screen print, you have to make a different screen for every layer there is. Mm-hmm. And the process takes a long time. So usually you have to have like a minimum. Like you can't just make one. It's not really worth it because after you make 4 screens, the time that it takes to print one is the same time it takes to print 50 to 100. Once you're set up, it's quick. The nice thing with vinyl is you can buy good vinyl cutters. There's a brand, I think both of the brands that are popular out of Utah that kind of started as like craft brands. There's one called Cricut and one called Silhouette. And they both have, I want to say both their headquarters are here. But they have
I just recently heard of Cricut. Cricut's pretty popular.
Cricut's cool. And it's cool too because like I remember I bought one of their first vinyl cutters way back in the day to see them evolve in the innovation of things. But that's like something that, like any kid could go and just buy one of those, connect it to your laptop or computer, and you can throw designs in there and then off to the races. And then you can buy a heat press and that's how you apply it.
Yeah. And those are pretty cheap, right?
Yeah. All of that stuff too, you can buy on Amazon for,
cool.
Under $1,000. You could have like a pretty good setup.
But at what level does it make sense? So like for your company, right? So say I'm a designer and I design something on my computer, right? But I want to come to you to have you make it, right? At what level does that make more sense than just buying your own equipment?
There's so much that goes into it. I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like what you were talking about with the quartz. It's just, there's like definitely a learning curve, and to like be the best, you do have to put in time. So if you're just doing a clothing company, you want to put your time into, you're already doing so much to like master the manufacturing. You want to go to somebody that knows what's up, because there is like a science between mixing paints and how you cure them in the heating process. There's so much that goes into it. So I guess it kind of just depends, because heat transfers, I mean, different prints look good on certain things and go better with certain things. So I feel like doing your full manufacturing, and that's where you want to like have an option to do a little bit of everything, screen printing, embroidery, and the heat transfers. So it's great to start with, and also for like samples and one-ofs, but it ends up just being a lot of machinery. And like I said, like this has been like a 12+ year kind of process of kind of like mastering it myself. Like I've always loved learning how to do it all, so like screen printing and everything, but then it's something I've definitely have figured out how to delegate to the right people. There's certain things too, every once in a while I do enjoy doing it, but yeah, it is kind of a lot. It's something that it's kind of like podcasting too. It seems like it would be like so easy, like, oh, I just go and talk, but then you don't realize all the behind the scenes and like to make it look good and edited right and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll give advice to try it. Why not? But also you want to go with someone professional too, and good machines, because you'll be able to tell a difference of a hat that had the same exact design printed embroidery wise. You can tell by the quality machine that made it.
Yeah.
So
in your business, do you keep a lot of like clothing inventory ready to go for people, or do you always kind of bring the inventory in at the same time?
I have suppliers that have same day or next day. So that's been a huge thing, to not hold inventory. And that's just kind of something I've learned the hard way over time. Is I did buy, like when I first started, I bought one of like every single option I could get ever to have a showroom so people could come see. And then I realized most of that stuff no one really cared about, and it just kind of ended up just being more of a mess. Right now I'm actually working on creating my own like basics line. So like all of the pieces that I like use most for clients, I want to like create my own. And so for example, like we're recreating that melon waterproof hat.
Yeah.
And there's another style of hat that's like an A-frame hat that's our most popular. And so I want to like recreate it and have it our own, one to get costs down, but also just to have our own. Also like performance wear stuff is popular. Also streetwear t-shirts, which is like kind of the style now. It's like a heavier, oversized look.
Right.
So that's something that I'm actually working on now, to now have our own like product people can use. But right now I have a bunch of different white label companies that I have wholesale accounts with, and most of those will get to me within like the longest probably is like 3 to 4 business days.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of nice to avoid.
Yeah, are they manufactured in the United States, or is most of the stuff made overseas?
So all of those are all different domestic companies. That's why those are so quick. For the overseas stuff, that's all done in Bangladesh, and I've done stuff in China too, and that's kind of been a process in itself, because you need to find somebody that's good that can work over there. I've gone to China once, which was cool to like go see the process, and we worked with someone that kind of took us to different places. So that's if you want complete custom stuff in higher quantities. But a lot of the stuff people need yesterday. Most people come to me and they're like, I have an event in 2 days. What can you do? And usually the sad thing is I usually say yes, because I like to just help people out and make it happen. I do know what's worth and what's not, but it's nice because like I said, a lot of companies are in Vegas, so they'll throw it on Ontrax, the shipping service they use. And if you order it at a certain time, I'll either have it next day in the morning or whatever the case. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
It's good you guys have the capability to do that.
Yeah. And it just saves for inventory. Like I think that's a killer in most people's companies too, is like you'll be hyped at the beginning and all of a sudden you print a couple hundred of the same t-shirt and you realize, be nice to maybe have some variety, or maybe it wasn't really that cool and it was cool to you, and all of a sudden then you're stuck with all these t-shirts or whatever. And so it's nice to kind of avoid holding on to too much inventory if not needed necessarily. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is there, between a heat transfer and a screen, which one of those is a better quality product?
I guess it just depends. I mean, in how it's done. Screen printing's great because it stays on probably the longest through washes and stuff. It does have just a different style. It has that paint look. Something that's very popular that I use now that not anyone really can do is that puff print. And you'll see it with a lot of companies now where they'll print like a logo big on the back of a hoodie or something, and it looks heavy, like 3D. So it just I would say stays on better, but like also heat transfers, they're not bad. Like if you've ever had Nike stuff, reflector, like anytime you see the reflector swoosh, that's always a heat transfer.
Right. And
every once in a while, like after you've had gym clothes and you've washed them 20 plus times, you'll see them come off and whatnot. So yeah, it kind of just depends on what it's going on as well. Hats, obviously you're not washing, so it'll stay on really well. Or like another heat transfer is, have you seen like the rubber brick where it looks like a 3D? That's like something super popular right now that Nike and Lululemon and stuff do. And they've kind of figured it out where that stuff will stay on for a good amount of time too. So really it depends on so many things. And that's what's kind of cool too, is when people come to me, I also can offer like the expertise just from doing it so long.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, this is what you want, or this is the design, I would do this. Like embroidery, obviously, where it looks like it's threaded, that obviously lasts the longest, but does have a different look to it, So it's kind of just depends on a lot of different things.
So when a client comes to you that's never really branded before, right? Other than like take my company, ADP Lemco, right? Like we don't have clothing, right? Every now and again, I'll order something and we'll get some logoed stuff up for like the employees. Mm-hmm. What's the process you go through with a new client? Say they're like, hey man, I want to like do a clothing line. I want it to be cool and hip. I'm not cool and hip. What's your suggestions? I
love going to meet at their place. So that's like my first thing. Love going to meet at their place and kind of just seeing what the vibe is there. And kind of what they already have. So that's always like a first thing. The nice thing too is having Rare Roses in these other companies and like brands and people that I've worked with, it kind of helps with the portfolio. So I'll send them different like stuff that's similar too. So I'll send them things that are maybe similar to their brand or what they're looking for that I've done before, because that helps a lot to kind of get an eye. And also depending if they're like, I want you to take full reins. I love being creative. And so as soon as, I step into kind of their place and I kind of have some of those questions answered of like what kind of the purpose or what they're going for, if they want to make it more hip, I usually can kind of take all of that and kind of run with it. Then from there, that's where sending different like mock-ups of designs and whatnot until there's something that they like, and then we can make samples or run their stuff.
Yeah. So do you have a bunch of designers that work for you?
I have 4 different ones, and they all have kind of different styles. And so just kind of depending on who it is, or if just to have like a couple different styles to give. So that's been kind of cool, especially because that's what at UVU I did take some design classes, and I realized something that I use now too is like in college, obviously you have some of the best designers and they want to be a part of cool things. And so those are all the people that I work with right now. Either one's in school still, most of them are like out, but just recently out, and they want to be a part of something cool. And so those are the best ones to take and work with right off the bat, which has been kind of cool. So, yeah.
So who's been one of your favorite clients to work with?
The door-to-door companies are probably the best clients to work with because they have the money and the budget. They want the coolest thing possible, and they're not worrying about pricing or anything, and that lets us go full reins and be able to not cut any corners and go attention to detail with everything. Those are the easiest and funnest because they do give a lot of creative, and I keep going back to it. That's what's kind of cool with the 2 different businesses is they work hand in hand. Oh, you like our clothing with Rare Roses and this different prints or styles or whatever, we can do that for your company. Mm-hmm. And so I would say those are the easiest to work with. I love working with obviously people and brands that I enjoy. So like I do some of the stuff for Bucked Up, and Jeff and Ryan Gardner, who are the owners of that, have been awesome, like mentors to me. So I love working with them because I learn so much. Every time I go in there, they grow so much. Every time I go in there, it's crazy. They're like, oh, we're getting into every Walmart, and like there's something new and crazy every time. So it's cool to be around them and different players. I do Kelly Oubre Jr. He's a basketball player. I do his brand, and he has like super cool style, and he actually has like great ideas as well. So it's awesome working with him. So in reality, just stuff that I'm into, but there's just a wide array of everything. And that's what's been cool too, is I've always loved all different types of businesses. And so doing like the different branding and marketing for these companies and brands, it's cool because I get to see a little bit of everything. Yeah. So, I don't know if that really answers it, but
yeah.
A little bit of everybody.
So say like Kelly Oubre, right? Like how did you get in contact with him?
So I got in contact with him. My youngest brother, Trey, that I do all this with, he moved with Frank Jackson, who's from Lone Peak, played basketball at Lone Peak, then Duke, then went to the Pelicans, then the Pistons and stuff. He actually moved out with him to New Orleans, and just them lived out there. And just from going and visiting them, and I love networking, and they're good at it as well. They connected me to random people. I went out there, and one of their good friends was best friends with Kelly growing up. And Kelly was going to the Suns at the time. Mm-hmm. And last minute, he was like, I was telling him kind of what I did, and he was like, bro, this is perfect because Kelly's going to the Suns and he wants to create a culture and a brand going out there. Would you be like down to help him out? And so of course I wanted to. And so we literally had a month until he went out there and we created a whole brand. It was called the Valley Boys, and they transitioned actually the Suns transitioned into the Valley after this, but went with the Valley Boys. I worked with couple designers, and he had a friend that was kind of into design but didn't know a whole lot, and we like put together this full line, and we had a pop-up down there and literally had a month to do it all. And it was actually one of the coolest experiences because I didn't really know what to expect. I knew he was super popular, and he's kind of known as like a fashion icon in the NBA.
Okay. Like
him, Jordan Clarkson's, there's a couple different players, but he's like known as like kind of one of the swaggy players or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, went and did this pop-up with him, and there was a line outside of we were at like a sneaker store we collaborated with in like a little mall, and there was a line that was, I have the video of it, I'll have to show you, but ended up like selling out of everything right away. People couldn't even get in. And there was a line like before it even opened, people like were like camping out overnight just to get Kelly's brand.
That's cool.
So that was a cool experience and starting experience, and kind of just like a YOLO, you only live once moment. I'm like, yeah, a month to do all this is a little crazy, but so worth it.
Yeah.
And so after that, that's actually opened so many doors just with like different players from the Cardinals, and like his friends and just random stuff. And that's what's so cool about this whole industry is I love networking, and it's cool because I have something that I can offer everyone and anyone that I meet that has like a business, or they have a friend that has a business. It's something that's cool that kind of ties everyone together. That's what's been really cool about the whole process and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Networking it's funny because like once you're in, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and you kind of see, and then you prove yourself, right? You put out a good product, and then people start talking about you, and then you start getting introduced, and then, you know, they want to hire you because they want an expert. And
yep.
It's funny. It's the same in like every single industry. I feel like sometimes people would listen to this and be like, well, he's in fashion, and so that makes sense that he's networking. And it's like, no, dude, every single person in this world should be networking.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and that's even like what we were talking about with the courts. I'm sure all those relationships and stuff has all come down through networking. And one is knowing, this is what I was thinking about the other day. One with networking, one is knowing someone, which is one thing, but also like actually like being good at your craft and having something to offer. It doesn't even necessarily have to be monetary or anything, just something to offer as in like even a good time. I have some friends and people I love being around because every time I'm with them, it's just a good time. And so like being on the other side, being someone that's good to be networked with, and it's kind of like the wildfire like analogy of like once you start rolling, all of a sudden then you're all downhill from there, and you're making all these new, better connections, and you already have like the portfolio and the recommendations and whatnot from these other people. So it really has been so cool, and so many cool opportunities that have come from that. So yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's have you worked with Jordan Clarkson much? I've done a couple just random things, and then like during the All-Star, like did like their brunch swag and stuff. But he does have a brand, and I know his brother pretty well, and Ken, and I need to start doing his stuff because we could take their stuff's awesome, but kind of take it to the next level, more of a custom side. Yeah. So that actually is in talks. So I think that would be obviously super cool, especially to have like a Utah guy, and he's so well known. So yeah, I think that would be. Yeah,
he's kind of a lovable guy, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people really like him.
100%.
Yeah,
and he has cool style too. Yeah, like he really is awesome for the Jazz to have too.
Yeah,
and that all being said too, All-Star was awesome for Utah. That was actually so cool to see, and seeing Michael McHenry, and like he was in like his perfect world, especially at what he does best, like the events and stuff that he put on. Honestly, all the events that were put on, it was cool to see Utah show up. And I know there's a little bit of backlash or whatever, but growing up in Utah and seeing what it was to now like this like powerhouse that it's becoming, I think All-Star definitely helped put it on the map. And now with all these people moving here and stuff, there's so many cool options and places to go.
Yeah.
And it's needed too. We need more places and cool things to do, and lounges, bars, clubs, restaurants, all these things are definitely needed. So it's cool to see it all kind of evolve.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny because I mean, I was a very young kid when the last time we did the All-Star. Were you born?
Was it 93?
Something like that.
I was 1 year old. I was born in 92 then. Okay. So I don't remember, obviously.
See, I was born in 81, so it's like I was like 10.
Super young, yeah.
10 or 11 or 12 or somewhere in there.
That was a legendary time too.
Yeah, we had good players back then, and and I remember I think I had a poster up in my room when I was a kid of the All-Star weekend and being in Salt Lake for a while. But I didn't go to any festivities. Obviously, I was young then.
100%.
I mean, this year when they had it here, I mean, it seemed like it was just like nonstop party.
Yeah.
But like my friend, so my friend Nick Howland, the plastic surgeon?
Yeah.
So Nick and I were joking because, Michael's like, dude, whatever party you guys want to go to, blah, 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 blah. And dude, we're sitting there one night, I think it was Saturday night. And dude, we were just like, this is insane, dude. Like Michael McHenry is the party planner extraordinaire, and we are not going to any parties.
Did you not go to one?
I didn't go to one. No. And my son's birthday was on the Friday.
Okay, yeah.
So that day was out no matter what. And then I think by the time Saturday happened, like I think he wanted to come to the Travis Scott thing, but it didn't start till 2 a.m.?
Yeah, it became like Miami and Vegas and Utah for that weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
We're dumb. We should have went up there. I mean, it's like...
There'll be plenty more times.
Well, that's the thing too, is I kind of look at it and it's like, for me, I could go to any NBA All-Star weekend I want.
That's true, 100%.
But it's like, but still though, when it's in your backyard and you just walk in the door, it's like, it's a little bit,
No, I get it. And I'm not going to lie to you. You maybe missed out a little bit, but it was awesome. We did like a little pop-up store for Rare Roses, and we did it with a couple other friends that we just made that have other brands and stuff from all over. And actually the guy that we put it together with, he shops and styles for NBA players.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually awesome because we rented this little spot and he had all of his clients come. So we had all-stars in there. We had all just different players and stuff. So that was actually super cool during All-Star. And we did a couple blocks outside of the Mayhem because the players didn't want to go to they had a Rail Jam event, for example, and which was super cool for the people and whatnot, but they kind of wanted to do private shopping. We would even have to we had times where certain players would come in and we'd have to not have people there. But that was just cool too, because they would all come grab stuff from us and just making those connections, which that's kind of the fun of it, is making those connections and getting those people in it. And I think that's how Rare Roses is blown up so much, is just getting it in the hands to the right people, but also stuff that they like and they don't feel forced to post about, where it's so organic and authentic. Yeah. That's where it's awesome, especially when players, when we get tagged and the players don't even necessarily tag it, but it's just their everyday fit, or it's something they chose to wear to a game.
Yeah.
So that's actually been super cool, and NBA's helped a lot with that. So
where was your pop-up store at?
We rented this it was this little business building. I wish I knew directions better. It was kind of over by the Ja Morant. I guess, and if you didn't go, you wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
But it was probably 4 blocks from Gateway south. So, So yeah, and it was honestly such a cool turnout. But yeah, all of All-Star was super cool. We went and watched Frank played because he's on the G League right now.
All right.
And we went and watched him. He was in the All-Star game for the G League, and that was super cool to see. And he did awesome. Then he had his 10-day contract with the Jazz. Right after
did he
that.
Have one of those this year?
He had a 10-day, yeah. He didn't get a ton of playing time, and the guy that ended up getting it over him is actually a really good player. I can't remember his last name, but yeah, there was just so much going on. And I think it was cool too, because I know so many people, one in the NBA world, or brands and fashion from all over. So for them to be in our hometown, it was super cool because they wanted to come see what was going on. Also, Michael connected it with getting us into a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah.
He threw one party, and I think it was kind of the last minute one. And there was 2 floors, and I went upstairs, and there was like Kanye West was there. It was like Pusha T was there. Every NBA player, all-star you could think of. I'm friends with Darren Williams, and like he was there. It was cool to see. It was cool to see like Utah be the place.
Yeah.
For once, you know. And I guess with Sundance Film Festival, that's kind of like those 2 weekends that Utah's kind of the cool place to be, but it not on a level like this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool.
No, it's fun when they do that kind of stuff. You know, Utah. The funny thing with Utah's actually amazing.
Oh, it is the best.
You know?
Have you lived here your whole life?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, other
Same.
than my 2-year mission in Scotland, but yeah.
Yeah, basically same with me too.
Yeah, and I've traveled a ton of traveling, probably. I mean, domestically more than most anyone I've ever met. So there was times for like through my 20s and 30s, I was probably in a different state every week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is nice. And then you actually really appreciate Utah. That's what I've realized. The more and more I travel, the more and more I appreciate and love Utah. And Utah will forever be the coolest place to me. And it is at the small lake city, what they call it, where everybody knows everyone. And it's been a great thing for me. So
yeah, that is a really good thing here too, man. Once you build a good business relationship, like your reputation really precedes you.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of times nowadays, especially with my podcast, you know, because, you know, the popularity seems to be going up. But like I meet people at least weekly that are just like, oh yeah, you're that guy that has the podcast, right? And then you do the NBA floors. And then I'm like, yeah, you know, it's kind of weird, right?
Well, and there's so many connections, especially with like social media and sharing, because I'm sure so many people know your podcast because one of their friends or whatever was on it. Yeah. And then you go and start looking into it and you see other people you know or whatever the case. That's what I like, even probably listen to like 4 before this just to see the flow and whatnot. Yeah. Seeing how many just different people I knew. Honestly, a good majority of the people I knew, which was super cool. So, yeah. Yeah,
it's funny too, because I mean, I've talked about the podcast a few times, and it's like I don't really have a rhyme or reason, right? I just like I bring people on I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are like, how do you pick your guests? And I'm like, people I like. If I just feel a vibe from them and I want to bring them on, and
yeah, I love that. That's it. And you said it I'm friends with Bronson Kafusi, and in his you were saying like at the beginning you were like, even if it's I don't plan on making money from it or whatever. I honestly am doing it just for my legacy. Yeah. Which was actually so cool. That's such a even great reason for that to be your reason. And then obviously when all of this stuff, as it grows and stuff, that's always the cherry on the top. But just to have that in these documented times and whatnot really is such a good idea.
It's funny. I was on my way in this morning. You know, I make a lot of business phone calls, right? When I'm driving, I almost never listen to the radio or anything. So I was talking to a friend and he's like, yeah, man, I love the podcast, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, cool, dude. I'm glad you listen to it. He goes, dude, how are you making money on this? Because there's a lot of ways in my life I've monetized, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, I've never made $1. And he's like, no way. I'm like, no, dead serious, dude. I'm like, I don't have sponsors. I'm like, if you listen to the little intro and outro, like every company,
it's your companies, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so it's all,
which is genius.
Yeah, so it's all self-funded, right? And it's exactly. I mean that. I did this. Here, my real plan is this. I thought I'm going to put out 2 podcasts a week for 2 years, right? Just like a machine. I'll never miss, right? And I'm about 9 months in now. And I thought then at the end of those 2 years, I will get some honest feedback from some people. And if they're like, dude, your podcast has legs, let's do something with it. We can, you know, it's a consumable item that people want to consume. Mm-hmm. Then I would actually take a look at maybe monetizing it in a part where I can just keep it going forever. You know what I mean? But I just enjoy it so much that it's like my pet project.
I love that.
You know, and my wife loves them. She listens to everyone. My kids love them. I've had 2 of my daughters on.
So cool.
I'll have my son on in the next, I don't know, a month or 2, right? Kind of just spreading my kids out because, I don't know, it's weird, right? I put my kids on and I'm like, I wonder if people think this is interesting, you know, because my first daughter was 7.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's like, I'm talking to a 7-year-old, you know, there's not a lot of life experience there.
Yeah. No, I think it's genius, especially because also it kind of timestamp stuff for them to be able to go look back and see how much they've grown, but also for the people obviously that follow you and stuff and they know so much about you. I think having the kids is awesome because then you see a lot of your parenting skills, with them, or like things that they've picked up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And just to switch it up, this is super random. I love all podcasts, and I try to like listen to more I listen to a couple each day, and I'll listen to some educational ones or business ones kind of to start. I always make sure I have something like that, or like even just whatever, life coach stuff, whatever. Yeah. But then I do love comedy side. That's kind of like what I enjoy to consume. And Theo Vaughn, who's super funny, he like on his podcast, he like had a random plumber on like not too long ago. Yeah. And honestly, listening to that, I love, obviously, it's so nice to hear like cool stories about celebrities or people that have started businesses, everything. But to even hear the life of a plumber, it was actually one of the most interesting ones. And so, and I think that's not shown as much. So to have something different like that, obviously you have all these people that have done so many great things, and also to just switch it up, I think that's actually so cool. Yeah. And it builds your brand too, because that's a part of you, and then people obviously that want to learn more about you or already know about you and are like, oh, I want to go see this kind of stuff. So it was a great idea.
Say, if you want to know about me, man, listen to the podcast, because you know it's unscripted. Yeah, for sure.
100%.
You know, it's. I've had a couple guests come on. They're like, okay, what points you want to hit? And I'm like, none. I just want to talk to you. You know, because the podcasts that I've always liked were the ones where you're just like a fly on the wall. Yeah. And like when you're talking about Theo Vaughn, I love Theo Vaughn.
So funny.
I followed him. Well, I loved his character on The Real World.
Yeah, right? That's where he kind of got his start.
Like
way back in the day.
2000. I mean, who knows? It's like forever ago, right? And then I think the next exposure I had to him, it was probably on, what's that podcast?
Joe Rogan.
Not Rogan. It's the other guys, Brendan Schwab and.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember.
The King and the Sting, or he had one with Brendan Schwab and Chris D'Elia.
Oh, it was one with Chris D'Elia too.
And that might have been a little bit after that, but
it was Brian Callen. It was one with Brian Callen.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Whatever that was.
Fighter and the Kid.
Fighter and the Kid. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Fighter and the Kid. So I think they ended up shutting that down, right? Because then Brian Callen
something happened with Brian.
Some crap.
Something happened. I think he kind of, I want to say he took a little break. I've seen him on some stuff here and there. Yeah, something happened. I didn't really follow it.
Yeah, but that was I probably saw TikTok, honestly. TikTok's my weakness. I love freaking TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Mostly because I perfected my own algorithm on there. It has nothing political, almost nothing business. It's like literally just funny clips.
Yeah.
So when I'm going through it,
and they're mainly Theo Vaughn, actually, because he is just so funny and random, and also in that short form, he's just so good at that stuff.
Yeah, perfect at it. And I don't think anyone makes Rogan laugh as hard as Theo Vaughn.
No, not at all.
Like he's just
so, the way he like processes things and thinks of it, and also like a lot of the stuff, I'm like, he's making that up, but then like in another podcast down the road or whatever, like it actually was true, but a lot of the stuff is crazy too. Like the way he just like, he has like an answer, like someone will tell a story and then he has like some story that is literally the exact same or like one ups it, and just the stuff that comes out of his mouth. Yeah. Joe Rogan's what got me into podcasting, and I'm sure a lot of people, and just, it's been cool because the people he'll have on, that's where I have like Andrew Schultz, who's like a comedian too. I love him. And he has a podcast called Flagrant 2. And I've just found so many cool ones just from that. Yeah. And I just love comedy. I love like the way comedians think, and just like it's all about timing and just being quick and witty. Yeah. Something that I love. So that's why obviously Theo Vaughn's so cool to watch, because he's the king of that, and no one can recreate that, because he is just
he's good.
Another being.
He's really funny. He's like a perfect host / co-host, because like his stand-up, I like his stand-up, like it's enjoyable, but it's not on par with like Dave Chappelle or Rogan or like 100%. Those guys quite yet.
Yeah.
And he's early, right? He's still kind of early in his career, so I'm sure he'll get up there. But dude, you get him with another guy and they're just vibing. It is freaking fun.
He's so good, at riffing, and like he'll make anyone laugh. Like even the random plumber that was on it, like he was getting the plumber like laughing, which like obviously, I don't know, just like a random person that you've met to make them laugh and whatnot. Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, it's fun content. And also, dude, this life, like there's so much serious bullcrap that everyone gets to deal with, right? I mean, from divorces to kids to business to political crap, economy, 100%. All this junk. Like, I'm so sick of consuming news. I want to consume joy.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I enjoy it too so much, just because, yeah, it's good to laugh. The best too is when I'm like working, listening to a podcast, and I'm like laughing out to myself, and I'm like looking around, I'm like, that was that funny that I literally just chuckled out loud.
Yeah, exactly, right? I always joke around that I do most of my TikToking on the toilet, right?
100%,
I'm sure most
yeah.
people do.
Until you get the dead legs and you're like, oh, I have to go.
Back to work. Yeah. And there's a lot of times, man, where I've been in the bathroom just laughing. I've had a couple of my employees be like, dude, what the heck were you laughing at in there? And I was like, oh, freaking Theo.
Like, let me show you.
Or like some stupid crowd. Yeah. You know that Asian guy, is it Bobby Lee?
Bobby Lee, he is so funny. Dude? Yeah.
Dude,
Andrew Santino.
Is that his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they crack me up, bro. Like,
so funny.
I was literally watching one. He was either yesterday or this morning, and you know, Bobby's like, hey, when you do that Asian accent, it, you know, really offends me and hurts my feelings, you know. Then he just like dings a gong, and you just like know it's coming, right?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I can't do an Asian accent, but
yeah,
you know, it goes in that whole thing, and then they just start busting up and cackling at each other, and it's just like, that's what I need, man.
100%.
Some laughs.
Yeah, that's why I like them too, because you feel like you're in on the conversation. That's why podcasts are cool, and I love it when I'm working, because like I'm getting my task done, whatever I'm doing, but subconsciously, like, you're like in that convo with them, like you're with the boys just joking around.
Yeah.
And that's why podcasts are so cool, because I think you really actually, they become like your friends in a way. And that's why I think they're so popular and stuff, because you know so much about these people, and then you listen to these podcasts and it's like you're like a fly on the wall. You're in on the combo. And I'm even like in like the comedy ones, like I'm thinking of like comebacks that I would say, or whatever the case is. It really is such a cool thing that has helped so much too. I've learned so much through them, and it's nice to hear just even life experience from people in general. You learn so much. I feel like it's helped me avoid doing things so much, just from hearing people's like stories of like trials and tribulations and whatnot.
Or even just when you go through them and you've heard it, other people go through the same thing, you're like, yeah, it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, that was embarrassing, or it cost me a ton of money, or man, I'm gonna have to do some apologizing after that, right? But then like you see other people who go through the same crap, and you're like, oh yeah, he handled it. Like the sun will come up tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You know, one of the things you just said kind of like hit me. So I went down and saw Joe Rogan last year with some friends, right, in Vegas when he was touring. Mm-hmm. And we got pretty good tickets, right? So we were pretty close. And like he's up there, and I felt like I knew him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's your homie up there.
Yeah, like I have consumed so many media hours of him. But I mean, between stand up, and I used to watch Fear Factor and, you know, UFC, and then his podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know, every like side of him.
Yeah. And I've seen, gosh, I think I've seen, no, that was the first time I saw him in person. That was the first time. And I had that thought, right? I was like, oh, that's my dude. And it's just like, but then like he starts talking, and then like you realize you're like, he doesn't know me. I don't know him.
100%.
You know what I mean? But freak, I do feel like I know him.
And I think that's why they do so well. And that's why podcasts do so well. That same thing. Everyone in that stadium with you felt that same way.
Yeah.
They got that ticket and they were like, yeah, I'm going to see my homie. It really is cool to think about.
I know, what an amazing connection, right? Just like a pure human connection.
And he's just a good dude. That's what's awesome. Like, such a great person for people to look up to. Great, like, father and family guy. And he kind of keeps his family stuff a little more private, as he should. He's so famous. But, like, all of his different friends, and, like, he's such a hard worker, and you hear all those sides of him. But also, he does have fun. He has a good balance. And that's something I've always loved, and I've always, like, prided myself in, is having a good balance. Like, work hard, play hard. As soon as I feel a little bit off when I've been working a little bit too hard, you have to have fun, or else you're going to be miserable. If you're having too much fun, and there's times too, like on vacations, or I feel like, oh, I'm like excited to get back to work. Like, I can feel when I'm a little bit off balance, and I feel like he's been a good person at that. Like, he makes you, like, you're motivated, but also you can see, like, he's so good at also letting loose and just having fun with his friends, having a couple drinks, whatever the case is.
Oh, yeah.
So he is actually, like, such a great person for people to learn from. That's why I think his podcast has been so popular, and the reach that he's had is pretty cool.
No, and he is like unabashed himself, right? Like like unapologetically just like take me or leave me kind of
Yeah,
thing.
he's done it right.
To me, it's the perfect way to be. I've really tried to model my life after that, and not even based off of his influence. That's just something I've always wanted to do. Right. I'm just like, I feel like the people I know the best and I trust the most are just the ones that are just unapologetically them.
Yeah.
And that comes with bad sides, right?
100%.
It comes with like, you know, I have friends who are like super aggressive, you know, like really aggressive. And when that's working, it's awesome, right? But then when they become aggressive with you, it's like, oh, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
you know. 100%. But then you
100%.
look at it and you're like, yeah, but that's what makes you special. You know, like you don't mind.
They are totally themselves.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to change for anybody else but themselves.
Yeah.
Which actually, it is super cool. 100%.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, Rogan. Did you watch the one with him and Alex Jones?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Oh, dude.
It's fun watching
like
them
just
together.
arguing to the ends
Yeah.
of the earth over stuff, and it's like, I mean, there is no producer in their ear being like, "All right, amp it up, or tone it down." You know what I mean?
100%. That's all just natural on the whim.
Yeah. And I think it's starting to vibrate with a lot of people. And there's a few other podcasts that are similar, right? Especially more the comedic ones, right? Because people are like, "Oh yeah, these guys are just spitballing and vibing and stuff." And then when you watch like the news, like it just feels so fake and full of shit.
It's
and
almost
lies.
just depressing, I feel like.
Yeah, but to me, it's like your soul gets it. Like
100%.
it doesn't even matter what they're saying. You're just like, ugh. Like I just can't consume this because I know that this person talking to me didn't come up with this. They didn't write it. It's
100%.
not their opinion.
And you know, a lot of it is just marketing and publicity. Yeah. It is true. It's crazy. Like, I think that's just part of like even just reading energy and things and people, which has been something cool that I feel like I've picked up even last, let's say even 5 years is like just reading people's energy and even knowing my own energy and whatnot. It's crazy because it's true. Like when you put on the news, like you can tell it's kind of like a overwhelming negative.
Well, and I stopped watching the news in October of 2021. Like I just refused to watch it.
Especially because all leading up to that was just crazy. That was all COVID and everything. So
yeah, I mean, you know, right now, what day is it? We're April 11th, 12th. I don't know what that is. You know what I mean? In 2023, and it's like, is COVID over? I don't know. No one knows. No one said it's over. No one said. I mean, we're back to normal life, kind of, right?
Yeah, kind of. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, our economy is all over the freaking place, but yeah, it's just, gosh, it's wild, dude. It's wild the world we live in. And I'm in Jimmy's men's group. You know, We Are the They, right, with Michael and stuff, and it's been really awesome because we focused on gratitude the first 3 months. And when we say focus, like I sent a list of 10 things every day to my accountability partner, right? And we tried not to repeat for 3 months. Dude, that's like a lot of things, right? Hundreds and hundreds of things. Mm-hmm. And you eventually stop being grateful for things. You start being grateful for people. So you just start listing out people that you're grateful for. And then you start listing out the reasons why you're grateful. You know, you'd be like, well, I'm grateful for my friend, you know, Ryan, because, you know, every time I see him, I just feel like he loves me, you know? And so when you're like, oh, I'm grateful for my cell phone and my car and my wife and like all this stuff. And, you know, after like 2 or 3 months, man, it's like, oh, dude. And it just changes your mind. And then we really started getting into meditation. I've meditated for a long time, but being very, very intentional with meditation, it just changes the way you perceive the world. You know, you wake up every day and it's like, I seek relationships and friendships, and I seek the ability to help people or just to be collaborative almost, you know, more than I seek like, oh, I got to go do a sell today, or I've got to like get this business off the ground and moving, and I'm going to go invest in this thing. It's like, nah, I'm kind of past that. I just want to like vibe with people, you know, and just spend my life happy.
That's super cool.
You know, do you ever feel like kind of the same stuff in your life?
100%. I feel like meditation obviously is different for everybody. When I can get into my most like meditative state is usually working out or running.
Yeah.
Don't have my phone. I'll usually put music on or a podcast, and it's just me and kind of just like my thoughts. And I'll do that every morning just to start the day. But life is just so go, go, go. So I really do actually enjoy those times the most, where like I don't want to have my phone or like even think about that stuff. But yeah, like even it's crazy because once like you don't let your mind kind of roam or worry, it's crazy like the thoughts or inspiration and stuff that comes to you.
Yeah.
The We Are the They thing, Jimmy's done a great job with that.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see. And that's something that's been so needed, especially for men. I think something that I've realized that actually is like one of the biggest superpowers is being vulnerable. And it was something that as guys, you're not supposed to, at least growing up, it was like not cool to talk about your feelings. Mm-hmm. And I've just realized that's been something that actually everybody needs. And even like, I remember, this is super random, but I remember like growing up and hearing about somebody that you heard was having a hard time. And then all of a sudden you heard that they were going to therapy and you're like, dang, it's like over for them. As a little kid, like I think it was such a negative thing that all of a sudden you're like, dang, they're already at that point where they're like going to like therapy and all this stuff. And then the older I've gotten and doing therapy and like I have a life coach that I meet with that's super cool, and like realizing that, and I think that's what's cool about podcasting, and the ones that I resonate with the most are the ones that are vulnerable, the ones that can like admit to faults or times that they've been wrong, but also how they've like overcome it. And it's been cool because I feel like slowly people have realized vulnerability is super cool. And it's actually so powerful because when someone's vulnerable with you too, you just trust them that much more because they're letting it all out on the table. There's nothing to hide or anything. So yeah, I mean, all of that stuff is so important, and it's cool that it has been, it's kind of almost been a thing. Like back in the day, like I said, you would never talk about your feelings or whatever the case. Now it's actually been a thing where it's like, yeah, it's good to talk about your feelings and want to better yourself and being vulnerable. So yeah, super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good, man. It's also, I think it's good to be vulnerable. Like men, it's a balance, right? Like you can't be driven by your emotions and you can't let your emotions dictate your choices in life, I guess.
100%.
You know? But we do go through hard stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll just call it the nuclear family. You know, when you're in a nuclear family and you've got kids and you're kind of raising them, right, there is a level with masculine energy, right, where you are the leader.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you have to be strong. And part of being strong is being vulnerable and understanding, you know, where your weaknesses are, like how you feel about something, and then being able to deal with things. And so inside of our men's group, it's funny, I talk to my guys in there sometimes, you know, when I say that, like all my brothers, right? And it's like, hey guys, this is the time for you to like deal with some emotions. And, you know, we do breath work and meditation and like all sorts of stuff at our masterminds that we do every quarter. And I'm like, but guys, we do it here to get it out of your system. So when you walk out these doors and you show back up in the world, you go back.
You're ready to go.
Strong,
100%.
masculine guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Great way to put it. Yeah. And you don't want to be like vulnerable with every person you meet or whatever the case is. There's a time and a place and there is a balance, but it is kind of cool once you like, and I remember just never talking about my feelings growing up, and my wife, who's so good at just communicating. I've learned so much from her, but like, I remember like, she like asked me like some tough questions or whatever that I've never been asked before. And I remember like, you know, when you get the shaky voice, and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm like shaky about it, but also I've thought about it my whole life, but I've never talked to anybody about it. And like, when I finally like talked to her about that and like opened up about all of that stuff, it really was like such a great relief. And like I said, almost like a superpower where I felt like once I got that, like talked about that stuff, it literally like helped me level up in every aspect of my life. Mm-hmm. But like I said, time and a place. You don't want to obviously, and kind of with like ego too, like obviously it's good. You don't want to not have an ego at all, because that's obviously something that does motivate and drive you. So you got to find even a balance with that. But also you don't want to have too much of an ego where like you're somebody that people want to be around and trust and whatever the case is. So that kind of goes all into that whole balance thing that I've always kind of lived my life by, is just finding a good balance in everything.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect, ego is actually, it's either a superpower or it's like the biggest hindrance ever, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, like going to the NBA. So I talk a lot of NBA with people, right? You know, because I provide a service.
Yeah, 100%. Right?
So, but people will be like, I love LeBron James. He's my favorite player on the court, right? And I've heard people be like, well, he's egotistical and arrogant. It's like, he's the greatest basketball player alive.
He wouldn't like, be where he was at if he wasn't.
And it's also like, pick another guy. Yeah. They all have a massive ego.
100%.
That's what puts the competition level up to 1,000%, because every dude on that court is trying to be the best. You know, I don't know if you ever listened to much of JJ Redick, but you know, he was a great player, an amazing player. Now, I don't know if he hit superstar status, probably not. You know, I mean, I don't know if he'd admit to that or not, you know, because of his ego, right? But like, but the ego behind wanting to be the best and striving to be the best, and that drive, dude, took him to levels that the normal person like you and I would never have got to, right?
100%. I mean,
you have to have that, but you also can't think that you're impenetrable or like let that ego define your character. You know, 100%. Ego is a tool. It's not a person. It's not a thing.
Exactly. It really can make or break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even me, I have an ego.
100%.
You know,
I feel like we all do.
You should, you know, especially once you become very competent and confident in like your craft and what you do, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming, you know, if I came up to you and be like, hey, I need a design done, you'd be like, yeah, absolutely. I can do anything.
Yeah.
Right now, if some people look at that as like an egotistical statement, for me, because we're in the same vibration, I'm like, good. Cause that's the kind of guy I want doing my stuff. I want a guy that thinks and knows that he can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want a guy that's like, well, I'm really limited and there's a couple of things I'm good at, but most stuff I'm not good at. It's like, what?
Exactly.
Like, you're untouchable, bro.
And I think being transparent, because it's true. Like I could tell you, no, I got you, and I really can do anything for you. But then if you did ask me something that I really couldn't do, I would be totally honest with you. Yeah. Or, hey, you know, this is something I don't know as well, but just being straight up. I think that's where a good balance with that is too.
Yeah. It's
just that transparency. And that in business, that's been a huge thing for me too, is just being transparent. Because when people can trust you, that's really everything. Like the trust and loyalty within your network when you're working with people and having them as clients, that really is a huge key too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about likability. It's a book that I'm trying to write. I've been writing it for a while. Hopefully one day I finish it.
Heck
right?
Yeah.
To me, it's the most important characteristic, right? And it comes down to like, you have to be honest, and you have to be competent, and you have to be fun.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to have all three of those to really be like super likable and have it all work for you, especially in the business world, right? Because if you're competent and fun, but you're not honest, no one's going to do business with you, right?
So true.
If you're fun and honest, but not capable or competent, right? You can't do business with you either, right?
Yeah.
And even if you're honest and capable,
but not fun,
but you're an asshole,
people don't want to work with you then. Exactly.
It's like this three-legged stool that's like, it's super important. And I mean, there's an arrogant statement. I've modeled after myself. Like those are three things that I don't even know if I figured them out per se, but it just started working for me. And then I realized I'm like, oh, these are the most important things. And in times where I've always been honest. It's pretty easy to be honest, right? And there was times in my life where I was not competent enough to really work with the people that I wanted to work with, especially like in the VC, you know, private equity world. And then once I got that competency and I had some success, then I realized, oh, when I'm around these guys, I just need to be more of my own personality and fun. And then they're like, oh, dude, this is the guy we want to work with. And then once you kind of elevate above people that don't fit that mold, you get to that next level with people, they're all like that. Mm-hmm. Right. And then that's when you want to work with people you like, or like-minded people. And what they really mean is all three of those components have to match.
Yep.
And then when you get to that level, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars, and that's where your net worth just skyrockets, and your life gets better, and you have better experiences and better people you're around, because everyone wants to collaborate with you because you fit the mold.
Yeah.
So
I'm stoked for your book. That honestly is awesome. Yeah. And those are the three keys. I watched the Air movie last night, the one about Michael Jordan. And I guess two things that came to me about that. One of the like agent of Michael Jordan was super rude. Have you seen it? You have to watch it. Anyway, he was just kind of cutthroat, and like even on the phone, he was like they're trying to make a deal, and he's like obviously so cutthroat business, which I feel like is kind of an old school mentality that people are like, you have to be like this. But he's like, I don't care about friends. He's like, when I sell my company for millions of dollars, I'll be eating by myself. I don't care, which is so sad.
Yuck.
But that kind of goes with like the fun and stuff. Like, even if someone's way good, I would rather take somebody that is almost as good, but willing to like learn and grow, but that you like to be around. And that kind of goes with those three things. Like, you would rather find somebody that has a little bit of, or has all three of those things, but maybe isn't the next level, like best at it. I would rather find somebody with a good balance of those three than being like the best at one or two of those or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, you should go watch it. It's actually awesome, because growing up, I've always loved Nike and Jordan and just like that whole culture. The cast is awesome. They put it together really well.
Yeah, no, I'd love to check that out.
Super cool.
That's my kind of jam. I love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Michael's, I can't remember his name, but the guy that wrote Relentless, the book, he was like Michael's trainer or like life coach.
Relentless. Okay. I'll have to look up.
I'm butchering this.
Okay.
He's, I'll show you as soon as the podcast's over on my phone, but it's amazing. But he also worked with Kobe Bryant. You know, he's the guy that talks about between being a closer and a cleaner kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Anyways, but the book is, it's good, man. It's like stone cold killer kind of thing. I'm working with a company. Hopefully, I'm kind of negotiating my way in right now. They're doing door-to-door sales, and one of their area managers and I had lunch of the day, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna get a couple hundred dudes," and we didn't quite say I want to get a couple hundred dudes. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna build this area. I'm gonna build it big, and like all this kind of stuff, right?" And I was like, "Listen, man, you don't want that. You want 30 killers." You know, you don't want 200 guys knocking doors. It's way too much to manage.
Yeah, it's a lot of managing.
Most of them are going to do 1 or 2 sales a week. You want 30 dudes.
A lot of them are going to go home.
Yeah, that are killers, right?
Yeah.
They'll do 15 accounts in a week. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I know so many people in this space, like that is what they strive for, you know, and they will literally cut people out that are okay, you know, or even good.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you want a killer.
Yeah,
guys that just go, you know, put your team together, right? That's your team. Let's go out there and just destroy the market.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way of putting it. Having the quality, especially because with a business, you're wanting to build them up and have them grow with you. And yeah, even just knowing that side of business and stuff, there's having a lot of people ends up being just a headache.
Yeah.
Just more people to manage and more problems and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, my friend, we're coming up at the end of the podcast. Can you believe it?
That was awesome. I feel like we could talk for hours more.
Forever,
there's so much other stuff too.
I know. I always feel like I'm going to bring back almost every guest because I'm like, dude, there's so many things we didn't even touch on.
Yeah.
There's actually crazy stuff in your life we haven't even touched on.
Yeah.
You know, but like, we'll get to it next time.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
You went to Lone Peak?
I did, yeah.
Because I know your wife did.
Yeah.
And she went to school with Whitney, right?
So I think Whitney, let me think of the connection there. I think she was a freshman when my wife was a senior. So she actually Whitney went with my little sister.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So, but then Whitney, you know, her first husband, Sam, I played football with him.
Okay, cool.
So I was actually the center and he was the quarterback.
Oh, heck yeah.
And so, yeah, when I met your dad for the first time, I actually told him the connection. He was loving it. He was kind of laughing.
That's awesome.
I met him at Nick Howland's anniversary party.
Oh, sweet.
At his thing, yeah.
Such a cool dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, yeah, we have so much more to talk about. And also, like, even just Utah, but sports, like, grew up BYU fan. My dad's brother was Dave.
Yeah.
Or is Dave Rose, and was the basketball coach. So that was, like, cool because I, like, grew up going to every single game and tournament. And, yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, it's way fun. Well, heck hey, yeah. So I need your best 2 minutes of advice.
Best 2 minutes of advice. All right. Something that I love, I guess, about myself that I've realized, and this kind of goes with the balances, you got to be your best friend and cheerleader and find a balance with that, with also being your biggest critic and coach. If you can find that balance where you can show yourself love, and that kind of is the gratitude side of things, seeing all the great things that you do well, but also being straight up with yourself, and you know the things that you're not doing so well, and being able to be like, I love myself so much that, and I want to be better and grow. I feel like, and even after we talked about balance so much on this podcast, I feel like my best advice is finding a good balance and finding a good relationship with yourself. That goes first with everything. if you have a good relationship with yourself and you love yourself, everything else will connect after that. If you don't, nothing will ever connect. And that goes with everything, like even relationship, being married, like something me and my wife, even at the beginning, and it's been so awesome because we really do have such a good relationship. I've learned so much from her, and it's like, you got to take care of yourself first. It's kind of that airplane analogy, like take care of your mask first and then help out other people. Take care of yourself first, so then you can go and help out and then be loved by other people or whatever the case is. So find that good balance. And what's another one? Yeah, I guess just be grateful and be positive. It's all the things like you hear all the time, and there's times too where you're like, oh, it's so hard, I can't or whatever. But at the end of the day, it always is worth having a positive mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right, dude. It's, man, the older you get, the more you like hear these old school sayings, right? Like the golden rule, right? Like just be good to people.
Yeah,
it's like,
100%.
You know, they rebranded it into karma at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's true, you know, like, you know, the better you work with people, it might be 10 years later, right? And be like, hey, you actually really helped one of my friends this one time. You know what? Yeah, here's a $3 million contract for you because you're identical to this other guy, but that's the thing that tips the scales for me. It's
as simple as that too, with the biggest deals ever. And I think that's with going in networking and stuff too. When you can tell people are genuine, and I think that's an energy thing too, when you can pick up on people. Like when people are generally and genuinely good people, those are the people, one, that you want to be around. Those are definitely the people you want to do business with, because you know that they're honest, you know where their mind is and their mindset. And yeah, I guess my other advice is it's obviously a constant thing, but just fall in love with being better.
Yeah.
If you can find that, and it's that a lot of this stuff I feel like people say is cliche just because you hear it so much, but you hear it so much because it's true.
Yeah.
Find different ways to work on yourself. I have a friend that has like been my life coach that I've started working with, and just because I've wanted to like connect with my higher self more, and it's crazy like how much of a game changer that's been. Someone that's non-biased and obviously is a friend, loves me no matter what, but also will give me straight feedback. And I think that's kind of helped with my balance and just being straight, because you can justify things for yourself to a certain point. Once you kind of get to that relationship with yourself where you're like, okay, this is something I know I need to do better. Also, this is something that I am doing good. You have to recognize that. And that's just the great balance of life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cash, thanks for coming on the podcast, dude.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to throw it out there and see what people think.
Yeah, love it. Keep me updated.
Yeah, we'll do.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.